Bleach. Okay,
That's
yeah.
smart.
No, I don't bleach. I know.
Do you think this will be
But
centered enough?
I don't know. I don't do that. You have friends and family. I'm sure. We don't do that. Some people do. Fine.
Okay.
We're the wig family. We're like, you want to change your hairstyle? Get a wig. You can put it on and hey, you can change it however you want.
That's my backpacking coat. Just kick it.
I'm gonna get some braids.
You can't say anything.
I'm like short.
I don't know. You tell me.
We are live.
Are we really?
Do we have any viewers?
No.
Cutting your hair.
We're gonna fix my hair right now.
A
A little better.
Oh,
Just take a seat.
I guess they do walk. Tell them to make sure they're on the street and they walk. Like for the people doing like persuasion, so like Max and Paige and Mary.
Yeah,
For the people doing PAs, just tell them to like look at the screen and make sure they're still like.
will you tell everyone who's doing a PA to like make sure they stay on screen?
You do PA?
Like to try to like. Well, like just try. Because I don't really know what to do. You know. How far does it reach? I can't. Did you hear what he said? Because I couldn't. Just move it while they move. Okay.
Huh? What's your reading?
Yeah, that's
And Mike said just move it when they move.
Oh, okay.
Who has Cheerios? No, Cheerios. So I'm telling you, you don't want to know. Why?
I hear smells like dye. Like it's, and that smells like dye, but you know how
What is the issue? If it's that bad, then you're not even reading it.
I should have also gotten a snack. I really haven't eaten anything today. I've been packing on hustle all day. Eating was not my priority.
Yeah, I need to figure out like my packing situation.
Oh, we're bringing the suitcase up to the team.
Oh, okay.
So, like, here.
My stuff.
Okay, I mean, it'll be in the team.
Okay.
So, like, whenever
Do you
get
have
to the
stuff
team.
packed?
Yeah,
Okay, perfect. So then I might go home, get my stuff, and then bring back. I'll see like how much.
The way
is in
we
there.
did the suit, so that there's a lot of rooms, like you fold the tops, because you like have them in the
Oh, right, right.
So like fold the tops and then you roll the skirts.
Okay.
And it saved a lot of
Okay. I'll go up and see like how you packed yours and like how much space and stuff there is.
my mom. I didn't really tell you. I was like, because we were also dyeing my hair and then it's still talking. So I was like, okay, I need all of these things in my room. It's like spooky though, because it's like, if I forgot, like then. My thought is like, if I forget something, I'll just buy it.
Or someone else has it.
Or someone else has it. Like, does anyone have hairspray?
I'll pack some.
I need to buy sunscreen when I'm out there. I brought sunscreen.
Oh, perfect.
I think I really do think I grabbed
But
it.
when the screen is on,
Oh, I need to have my straightener.
I didn't bring a straightener.
But you can just use mine. Especially since we're sharing a room.
Our reflection. What is it?
This.
No.
That's what I'm looking
What?
I like that tie.
Oh, I see. That is a nice tie.
No. You've seen me put it in so many times. How do you not remember? No, 2, 5, 4. Yeah.
Stop it.
Got it.
Like, I really
How you doing? I'm not. Tell me what it is. Just tell me what it is now. Perfect. Go ahead and read it. Okay, I will.
It's Max Marissa paid Monica. I haven't seen what it is.
So funny.
Oh.
That's such a scary picture.
Okay. A note.
That's fanfic. Yeah, it's still fanfic.
Yeah, right.
I would never even jump with
That's true.
Hey guys, who's ready to play the game? How much people don't have to buy in California because you forgot to pack it. So good.
Evil human.
Oh wow.
That was evil. That was
Shoe Oh no!
Yeah,
we
you
were.
I had to duct tape it.
Oh my
I'm hobo cheek. It's fine.
Oh.
I remember
You know,
I laugh.
You know, actually, when I touched the
I've never seen it, so it'll be genuine laughter.
Hey, Ash, I told them.
What?
Wait, it's Ash. Hee.
She's probably wrong.
There's two people watching too. One of them's not Ash. I don't know what
He's
you guys
already
said.
logged in.
Socks in Eddie's bio, it's in school Cox because he came from raised chickens. Think about it.
Have you been feeling well?
Think about it.
Hello, everyone. How we doing?
Good.
Yes.
Wow.
Last couple weeks of classes, right? We're gonna get through this. So
No,
we've
we're
got some friends and family here tonight. We've got a lot of Comp 10. Are you Comp 10? Raise your hands.
Woo.
Okay, great. I'll explain how this is going to work here in a bit. Thanks for coming. It's not going to be boring, right? I guarantee that. So you came to a really, really good show. I think you're really going to enjoy it. What you're going to see tonight is just 5 of about 60 some odd events that the speech team will be taking to nationals. We're pretty good. Last year we got 7th in the nation out of about 80 schools. And so we're hoping to go back this year and do better, if not maintain that. But so you're going to see some of our most talented performances tonight. And so we're really excited to share those with you. If you are in 210 and you're here for extra credit, inside you'll find a ballot. Make sure you put down your name legibly, please. And then your small section instructor's name, right? Do not write my name, okay? Because what I'm going to do is sort these and then give them to your small section instructor, okay? We clear on that. And then you'll just turn them in at the end. We'll be good to go. If you're here for 2 classes, you have me and another professor, just write both instructors' names, and then I'll make sure a copy gets to each of the small section instructor as well as whoever else you have. Questions on that? Okay, so we're going to do 5 performances, about 10 minutes each, and then at the end, our director wants to say a few things. But we're going to go ahead and get started. Please take your cell phones out and silence them. That'd be great. All right, our first speaker is going to be a senior doing a persuasive speech. And this is just a traditional persuasive speech advocating for some change, typically in policy. And so he's going to be giving you that presentation. So senior doing persuasive, speaking from Lafayette, Indiana, Max Haywood.
Leigh McIlvaine was thrilled when she learned that her student loan debt could be forgiven. Mother Jones of September 2018 shares the story of the 27-year-old who just crushed grad school, earning her master's in urban planning in 2008. She was also crushed by the sticker price of this degree, $70,000 in student loan debt. Luckily for McIlvaine, she found a way out from under that weight. She signed up for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, or PSLF. This program, according to the Wall Street Journal of September 3rd, 2018, was created in 2007 and forgives federal student loans for public servants who make on-time payments for 10 years. McIlvaine was on track for forgiveness until FedLoan, a private company that services those loan repayments, informed her she was no longer eligible for their program, even though she had never missed a payment. 9 years of on-time payments, $50,000 later, and she now owed an additional $70,000 because she was deemed ineligible for their program. And back interest is brutal. What kind of nightmare was she living? Apparently, a common one. According to Forbes on September 23rd, 2018, 99% of people who apply for this program are eventually rejected. It is high time that we uncover the problems, causes, and solutions behind a program that CNBC on September 23rd, 2018 describes as somewhere in between a bureaucratic shit show and an abysmal failure. The premise of the PSLF is almost self-evident. We need public servants. Public service doesn't really pay much, but a lot of those jobs require advanced degrees. So how does the government incentivize people to go into public service then? They make loan forgiveness part of the package. So where's the issue? The PSLF is deceptively simple and horribly mismanaged. First, the PSLF's apparent simplicity has led to the defrauding of tens of thousands of borrowers. It sounds easy. Work in public service, make on-time payments for 10 years, and the rest of your student loan debt is forgiven. Thank you for your service. However, public servants are being routinely kicked out despite thinking they're on track. BuzzFeed of February 9, 2019 explains that if you pay $1 more than your set repayment, despite your good intentions, you're kicked out. If you pay 1 day early, out. If you pay on the 1 day gap between switching public service jobs, you too, out. You could have the wrong type of loan. You could be a part of a nonprofit that isn't technically certified, or you could fall under one of the many other bureaucratic traps. And when you find out 9.5 years in that you've lost your eligibility, you could re-enroll, but your clock starts at payment number 1 with back interest. Next, FedLoan services the PSLF through a combination of deception and mismanagement. In case after case, according to NPR on April 23rd, 2018, these borrowers are losing their status for issues that aren't even their fault, including botched paperwork, flawed payment processing, and inaccurate information. And what might sound accidental is complicated by a very recent federal audit. Published on February 12, 2019, it reveals some of FedLoan's scammiest tactics, like not telling borrowers all of their repayment options, deliberately miscalculating payments, and what might be their favorite trick, repeatedly placing borrowers into costly forbearances after they've specifically requested the PSLF. Across 3 years of customer interactions, this audit found that 60% of all calls contained service failures. These mistakes on the part of FedLoan are not minor inconveniences. These are $1,000 plus mistakes that are sinking our public servants deeper into debt, with financial ramifications that continue for generations. But as the aforementioned BuzzFeed expose reminds us, leaving borrowers confused isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. For hundreds of thousands of our most vital public servants, those who teach, serve in the military, or in nonprofits, the promise of loan forgiveness has already been broken. Let's turn to some causes. Vulnerable borrowers and an imbalance of power. Now, to begin, once you're caught in this web of mismanagement, it can take years to escape, and for many, they just simply give up. The aforementioned Mother Jones explains the horror one borrower faced when dealing with FedLoan just out of college. FedLoan sent her a $1,600 bill. Now, this was 5 times more than her usual monthly payment. She frantically reached out to FedLoan, and they told her not to worry about it. It was just a glitch in their system. They will take care of it. 7 months later, that same bill was stated as over 90 days past due, and her new credit score of 550 made it impossible for her to get a job, purchase a car, or even move into a new apartment. And when she reached out to FedLoan to resolve the problem, she recalls being treated dismissively and was even told to pay more attention to your loans. McIlvain is still battling Fedloan to resolve their errors. Next. Fedloan is the largest payment processing company, and they handle all of the PSLF applications, which gives them the power and status to act as they please. There was once upon a time a watchdog group that was created by President Obama, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that was stripped of its powers last summer. Seth Frotman was the student loan ombudsman and assistant director, resigned on September 21st in a scathing letter in which he had explained that bureau had abandoned its students, which means that the only eyes that are legally watching Fedloan are within the Department of Education. And while the DOE claims to be committed to ensuring that borrowers receive exemplary service, that aforementioned audit found the opposite. The DOE rarely sought a refund from Fedloan on behalf of the borrowers, and not one time did they penalize Fedloan by scaling back on future contracts. So just to be clear, the DOE is in bed with Fedloan, and nobody's looking after the borrowers. Just 2 weeks ago, Trump's 2020 budget introduced a proposal to eliminate this loan forgiveness program entirely. That, of course, is the wrong solution. So clearly, we can create our own solutions. Become a watchdog and have a game plan. To begin, we have to demand an investigation as to why borrowers are facing so many barriers to loan forgiveness. The government hasn't just covered their eyes and ears when it comes to the plight of borrowers, but they're actually arming the other side. That's why Seth Frotman, the guy who resigned last spring as the student loan ombudsman, he's back. And this time he is a watchdog. In late November, he created a brand new nonprofit called the Student Borrower Protection Center that promises to fight back through aggressive advocacy. And you can easily join them. Just go to protectborrowers.org to join them in the State House, in the courts, and in Congress. Next, student loan forgiveness isn't just going to fall into your lap. If you are dead set on getting your loans forgiven, you have to be in the driver's seat and be willing to dodge all kinds of barriers. Make sure that your job qualifies as public service. Make sure that you have the correct kind of loan. Rule of thumb, if it doesn't have the word direct in it, wrong kind of loan. Make sure that you have the correct repayment plan. And make sure that you make the correct number of payments. 120 monthly payments. No more and no less. Now, the federal government recommends that you turn in a new employment certification form like this one right here every single year and every time that you get a new job. They say it pretty much raises your hand to the government, letting them know that you're planning on being forgiven. I have extras. I also have a whole stack of handouts to help you solidify your loan forgiveness game plan. And then, when Fedloan inevitably denies your credits, get ready for a fight. Today, we uncovered the problems, causes, and solutions behind the conspiracy of Fedloan's promises. The aforementioned public radio station estimates that 50% of all college students think that their loans will eventually be forgiven. If you're in that camp, listen up. Last year, 206 people had their loans forgiven. 200 out of 400,000 public servants that applied. So here's some tough love for all of us. Your loans are probably not going to be forgiven. Do not plan your careers, your financial futures, and most importantly, your lives around loan forgiveness. The system is by design very likely to fail you.
Good job, Max. All right. Our next presentation is going to look a little different than what you're used to. It's going to be an interpretation of a short story. It's called prose interpretation. So what the student does is they find a story they like. Sometimes they write the story and they perform it, right? It's going to have some type of message behind it. She's going to use this manuscript. It's a little black book that she holds. Don't ask why. It's just part of what we do. So it'll be there, and she's going to try to give you a lovely, entertaining performance of literature doing prose interpretation from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Marissa Lockhart.
Every day My badass kids. Loud as hell. And his house ain't did nothing to help it with its too thin walls and laminate floors. You know, back in my day, there were no white people on this block. But that's changed. I mean, now the streets are just crawling with them. Hell, there is a Starbucks around the corner, and that is the last thing that my 4 needs. Some caffeine? Yes, child. 4 of them. June, Harley, PJ, and Tabby, the little baby, only 3 months old. You know, I tried to provide the best life I could for my kids. And I love them with their sticky fingers and the daddy's fat pig nose. But being a parent is hard to do, especially when they're so damn ugly. I tried. I really tried, though. It just seemed like there was always something, someone getting in the way. The Root of September 2017 coined the term microcolonialism to demonstrate that our country is repeating its history. The term counteracts the more palatable euphemism, gentrification, and further explores the idea that we no longer see it as a threat. But communities like Brooklyn, Columbia Heights in DC, and Oakland, California would argue otherwise, as they are experiencing an urban ethnic cleansing, the wiping out of historic neighborhoods for a more pleasing aesthetic. Mule of the World by Cheyenne Hart. That morning I was up at 6 and the kids were just a mess. I mean, yelling and screaming. I had to pull out a couple of my favorite phrases and even give them the look. Have you seen my look? Yeah. See, they had a lot of energy because they have been home from school all week. They came down with a real bad case of headlines, or as my cousin Rita so artfully put it, white trash chicken pox. It was embarrassing, but we've been through worse. Anyways, I rushed all morning, cooked, cleaned, and got them all ready for school. We had to walk 3 blocks in a bit of November morning air so I can hold their hands as they wobbled onto the bus. And I just walked back with Tabby in my arms, just taking in the quiet. You know, moments like these are like taking your bra off after a long day of work. But it wasn't more than 3 minutes after I got inside that I heard a knock at the door. And I knew exactly who it was from the fancy way she knocked the... It was Lydia, my neighbor. Yeah, she thought she was better than me because she just moved into the neighborhood and wore a watch. We got into a real big fight. Yep, just right out into the middle of the street. She called me ghetto. Well, I went over there and clipped every single one of them ugly flowers out of her yard. We didn't get along. But I opened the door anyways, and there she was, standing in a pink velour jumpsuit looking like a walking labia. And she stares at me, her hard, thin-lipped smile stretched across her face, and she gestures to my yard, the broken swing set, a couple cardboard boxes, and some tire scraps. And she says, Gloria, hi, yes. I just come over to ask why you still have all this trash in your yard. I put my hand on my hip and shoot back. Well, that's mighty funny. Because I was just on my way to ask you why you got that stick up your ass. Bye-bye. But quicker than lightning, she reached her hand out to stop that door, and she had the nerve to say, Gloria, that trash is an ugly spot in our neighborhood. If you don't do something about it, I might have to. You know, I don't know why she thinks I'm a bad person or parent. It's because I don't have dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets or hired lawn care? Because I'm poor? You know, ever since she moved into this neighborhood, she thinks she could just run the place. Well, if she has a problem, she can go back to whatever suburb she came from. And that night, I did all I was supposed to. I cooked, cleaned, and got them all ready for bed before 9:30. And finally, it was my turn. I mean, next to race cars and crayons, I found serenity, a bit to myself, a moment to breathe. Around 1 in the morning, I started to hear this noise from outside my bedroom door. It was a faint, Mom, Mom, and my eyes just shot open. And that's when I started to smell it, the smoke. And as my eyes got adjusted, I could just see the flickers of it. I mean, the bright orange flame just licking the walls. I jump up and I grab Tabby out of her crib and I wrap her in a blanket. I pull her close to my chest so that the smoke wouldn't get into her tiny little lungs. And we make it towards the door, but the doorknob was too hot. I could just hear him screaming and screaming. I told him, back up. And I pulled Tabby in closer and I threw myself against the door, but nothing happened. So I threw myself again, and finally it bust open. And clouds of billowing smoke filled the air and burned my eyes. I just started to feel little hands reach and wrap around me. They were okay. My babies, they were all here. I mean, their faces smudged with tears streaking down their cheeks, but they were all right. And together and quickly, we ran out of that house. I mean, we ran past the scorched living room and a blazing kitchen, just watching all of our stuff melt away. And we finally collapsed into the sidewalk. Just happy to be together. And as I stood up, that's when I saw the ignition, my stuff. The things in my yard, my trash, was piled up against my house and set on fire. Across the yard, there's Lydia, mouth wide open, the bottle of lighter fluid still peeking from her porch. I give PJ the baby, and I march over there with every intention to lose my religion. And now we are face to face, and I can see every crack and blemish in her skin, and her eyes are wet, but them flames still reflected in them. And I go to grab her, but something pulls at my shirt. I look down, and it's PJ, and his eyes are huge and soaked, and he just keeps mouthing, and my heart sunk. I look down and I see my baby limp in his arms. And I'm just begging for a cry, a scream, or something. But I knew she was gone. And at that moment, my anger cataclysmed into the darkest sadness. Later, the doctors told me that I had held her too tight to my chest. So close and so tight that she couldn't breathe. I was just trying to save her. I was trying to protect my family. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not to us. Not here.
Good job, Marissa. All right, okay. As some people came in, I passed out some note cards and I asked you to write something on them. Where are those people? 1, 2. Okay, so our next speaker is going to give impromptu. Okay, can you leave? So impromptu, obviously, you don't know what you're going to talk about, and you just have to talk about it. So what's going to happen is we're going to choose one of these quotations, proverbs. I asked them to write down a favorite movie line, favorite quotation, proverb, just anything. As it can be humorous, it can be inspirational, whatever it may be. So Cade's outside. We're going to vote on which one we like best as an audience. He's going to come in. He's going to have 2 minutes to prepare a 5-minute speech on this. And just so you know, Cade is really good at this. He was the national champion a couple of years ago in this event. So you'll be impressed, hopefully. Okay, the first one. That's What She Said by Steve Carell, The Office. I got the horses in the back. Lil Nas X. Lil Nas X. I'm getting older, y'all. The bastards hung me in the spring of twos. Is that right? Who wrote that one? Oh, wait. The bastard hung me in the spring of twos, but I am still alive. Okay. Bye-bye. No one's having that one, it looks like. Okay. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Eleanor Roosevelt. An apple a day keeps anyone away if you throw it hard enough. Mary Majalore from the TV show called Soul Eater. Just by a woot. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Anybody want this one? Bye.
Oh.
I got the horses in the back. Okay, that's what she said. An apple a day keeps anyone away if you throw it hard enough. Okay, raise your hands. Apple a day. Throw it hard enough. I got the horses back. It looks 50-50, so we just give them both, let them choose?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Bring them in. Okay, here's some extra numbers to you. Okay. All right, well, we couldn't decide. We have 2. So we'll give you time to look at them. I'll be over here in this corner. I'll give you time signals. And you can go from there, sir. I'll give you a little time to look at them and then. Excuse me? Yes. Time starts. $30 seconds. One minute. $130.
We've all been there. You're a French admiral in a showdown with the British Navy, and you're out of cannons. So what do? Well, you make cannons out of ramshackle repair material you have stashed away, but then there's another problem. There's no cannonballs. But wait, you remember, you're French, you've got cheese. I'm being serious. In what was called the Cheese War, and French admiral was forced to use old moldy cheese that had hardened, because cheese does that, in replacement of cannonballs in order to defend himself. The story is whimsical and funny. Being shot with cheese probably wouldn't be, but it does reflect something about our reality that is reflected in today's quotation. namely that we can use things in strange ways. An apple a day keeps anyone away if you throw it hard enough, from Marie Mjolnir, from a TV show called Soul Eater. Now, I'm a little bit of a weeb, but I've never seen Soul Eater. But I'm really confident that Marie Mjolnir is reflecting on the reality that we forget the simple properties about objects. You can eat an apple, but you can also throw it. And the simple range of vast possibilities for every object is something we often fail to recognize. We'll explore this through two modes, the first of which is the ways in which our cultures define objects. And the second is the fact that physical reality is unaffected by this. Our culture creates illusions to define objects. Things mean certain things that they don't inherently. For instance, the Washington Monument. It's the Washington Monument. It means Washington. But if you don't know that, it's just a big pointy rock in the middle of town. We, in a sense, have created it to define it in our lives. We'll explore this through the examples of medicinal properties and authority. So let's return to the apple. An apple a day keeps the doctor away is part of how we define apples. We recognize that they are healthy and have benefits for us. So we incorporate it into our cultural lexicon through a phrase. Simply put, we begin to associate apples with health. This process occurs with a number of objects. We can all think of things that have associations beyond just what they are. There's nothing innately healthy about an apple. It's only when used by a human being that we see it as beneficial. Authority is another, more obvious way that we do this. Okay, this next part is interactive. When I say ye, you all say ha. Ye!
Ha!
Ye!
Ha!
Good. Now, the fact that you listen to me do that at all is in a large part a consequence of how we define authority. What is authority? Does it exist? Can you touch it? Should you? Authority in this instance is personified by me. I'm really no different than you. I don't know what's going on either. But they put me in a suit and stuck me up here in front of you to talk to all of you. The association of this room, the way you are set to face me, has conditioned me through cultural norms to possess an amount of authority. That's why when I asked you all to say yeehaw, you did it. Thanks. Both of these examples demonstrate to us that our culture creates illusions. Now that's pretty cool that our culture is capable of defining the world around us. But what's not cool is that the world won't cooperate. Physical reality remains unaffected by our culture. And that is why we tend to forget the subtle properties of objects. But they still exist. We'll explore this with the example of Filipino guerrillas and astrology. When the Philippines was fighting against America, trying to get its freedom, the locals returned to a practice, the name of which I will mess up, so I won't do them that injustice. But simply put, they would channel the spirits of warriors by tying sacred bands around their arms. They believed that this made them impervious to bullets. It didn't do that. But the U.S. Marines who were in conflict with the Filipino guerrillas did find that it made them more willing to fight on, even after they'd taken damage. Was this their cultural beliefs actually affecting physical reality? In a sense. You see, the bands that they tied around their arms actually worked to constrict blood flow. So the Filipino guerrillas who were shot down by bullets could get back up. They weren't bleeding out because the blood was simply moving through their body slower. It might have seemed on the surface as if their culture had changed their physical reality. But in actuality, physical reality informed their culture. We'll look at this again through a more whimsical example of astrology. My girlfriend tried to get into astrology, and then she found out when she did a compatibility test that our match was, I think the book said, downhill run. So we were forced to put into a position where we could either recognize that astrology probably isn't real, or we can accept it that it might inform our physical reality. In actuality, astrology doesn't affect our physical reality. It remains unchanged. But because the two are not closely related, we can selectively choose to embrace the parts of it we want. The things that say nice things about our future and reassure us that our quirky personality isn't annoying. Because of this disconnect, we can use our cultural artifacts. Just like we can use an apple to keep a doctor away in more ways than one. Both of these examples demonstrate to us that our physical reality is at most unaffected by our culture. So when we return to today's example, an apple a day keeps anyone away if you throw it at them hard enough, from Marie Mjolnir from a TV show called Soul Eater, we understand that Marie Mjolnir is tapping into the notion that we forget the simple, subtle properties about objects because our culture creates illusions, causing us to look at things differently than they really are, and because physical reality is unaffected by this, something we often forget. An apple might be culturally construed as medicinal, but if I huck it at you with all I got, it ain't helping you anything.
Okay, our next speaker is going to be doing poetry interpretation. So it's going to look similar to what Marissa did with the Black Book. But what this is you take a multitude of poems and you focus on some type of theme, some type of argument, and you smash them all together to create some cohesive type of performance. So during her poetry performance, senior from Wheaton, Illinois, Monica LaBelle.
When the world began, I was naked, barren, my skin hushed, my silence my own. I revealed the softness of breast, the granite of curve. But we are never alone for long. And when I saw it, moving through black, I tucked into myself, braced for the noise that rattled bone, snapped ligament, sprouted teeth. My wound grew large, my hands reached high, and just like that, I was no longer alone. And I wondered, will you be hungry when you come to me? National Geographic of January 17th lists the Trump administration's flurry of attacks on environmental policy and the slashing of federal funding for science and the environment. And despite the fact that 99% of scientists say that global warming is real, Trump quips, it's a hoax. Meanwhile, MPAIR of October 3rd reports that post-trial, more Americans believe Ford than Kavanaugh. Yet, Trump quips, it's a hoax. In an era of unapologetic natural resource exploitation, we turn to our women, who find themselves in a similar cycle of abuse. Now that women have begun to find their voices, it's time we give nature one too. So, through a single voice poetry featuring just a few poets, Tara Campbell, Caleb Berkey, Thrini Mysore, Catherine Klein, Courtney Ebert, Caleb Condrilli, Charlene McClure, Caitlin Serrano, and Mary Hackett. Because the goddess can't talk back. But what if she could? A female praying mantis decapitates the head of her mate while copulating. They say she's a wicked seductress, a malicious lover, a siren from the deep pressurized warmth of the sea. Bright green oozes from the nub where his head once was. He squirms, still trying to loosen her grip, but she just holds on tighter and tighter and tighter, and as holy Ganga descends down from mountains, she, donning colors as varied as confused thoughts of those just dipping to wash away their sins. All through her 1,570-mile journey, gasping for breath, she flows fast past his callous humanity. She reaches her love. See, crying. And when she settles, the meadow considers the velvety slickness on her skin, sips at its edges, trickles into her pores. Only a taste this time, she swears, as she falls in love once more with her own wet heft. The meadow umbers herself from the silken pool, plumps herself besotted against the dead, skin to skin, until she hates herself again. And waits, and waits, and waits for the solstice moon when it rises early. Fertility will make us mothers, moans to be seated and cropped, made our bellies big, full, ripe for the pain. When they learned to crawl, their bites were like fleas, little bodies moving upon a larger one. I loved them. They'd run up and down my spine, building shrines in my sand, little offerings left for good fortune. So easy were they to knock down, demolish. I was wiser than them then, before knowledge. But just like great trees sprouted from rock, their cities tore through my flesh and infection. But they just held on tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, and with long limbs, the praying mantis feasts. An act of both sacrifice and preservation. She raises a pointed arm to the air and hates herself. Thinks dynasty and hates herself, murmurs empire, infidel, and motherland, and hates herself because she knows. The meadow hums her thirst and mumbles tyranny, whispers homeland and hates herself, chose liberty, and waits and waits and waits for the dawn when they calculate abundance by the swelling. The most suffocating body is queen. Her dark nipples are high, a shack of heirlooms. Honey, when she squats low, watch them come out. She births the shadows. So what does it mean to tell our stories? In the beginning, there was a boy who touched me as he shouldn't have. Boys will be boys, right? Boys will be bodies to lay bare our truth. That boy is now a violent man with a large collection of semi-automatic rifles. Some things are just so absolute. The point at which rain turns to snow, the way that fruit eventually spoils. But I do as I'm supposed to. What happens in boys stays in my body. Pretend like I'm not obsessed with lightning and glass in the sand. Boys on my body, whether I like it or not. Last night I prayed to be empty, to be full. Spark spun, half mute, roofing nail in the soft sole of my foot, all off your milk like slaver, like a screen door season, finger for a father, coal for an overreline root of a rotten tooth. I dog you, I dare you, choose a hole in me and fall from my body. Do you believe my weighed down body, groped body, boys on my body, with one hand silencing my body? My body is trying to scream, so hollow me out. Hack away at my wooden veins, dig it up. Eat it, my heart, burn it, set it aflame, take. Body Bambi. She is Body Bambi. She is glory. Hallelujah, she cries, because she can almost taste it. The meadow hums her thirst and sings birthright, calls out shall not be infringed, and hates herself and sings and sings and sings until she feels the velvety slickness on her skin, sips at its edges, trickles into her pores. Only a taste this time. She swears. She promises. She shouts, I am cut. I am bruised. I am scraped. I am tired. I cannot feed you anymore. Women haven't been taught to speak, and neither has nature, so I am fighting back. I am shaking you off. My limbs freeze under your feet. My sky, it fills with fire. I will hunt you down. I am no longer lush, no longer soft. I am unstoppable. And when you're gone, when there is no one left to remember what you did, I will remain. I will still be here, standing in the cosmos, foolishly. Wanting to begin again.
To lighten the mood, we now have after dinner speaking, which is a humorous, persuasive speech. So if you find this next individual funny, laugh. If you don't find her funny, don't laugh. It will inform her to let her know what you find funny, what you don't. All right. All right. She's bossy too. No kidding. She is though. All right, senior doing after dinner speaking from Noblesville, Indiana, Lily Schwab.
I've been nude modeling for the art department. No, really, the student jobs page has a listing like once a week, and finally I was like, okay, twist my arm. It's easy money for people like me who hate wearing pants and love attention. So yeah, I mean, so cool, going so well, until one day I'm up on my little platform, limbering up, slowly undoing the tie on my robe, when this cool art girl comes up to me and says, I just want to thank you for doing this. It is so brave of you to be so comfortable with your body in public. So I snatched off her kind of overdoing it, but I'll admit still trendy beret, and said, listen, Amelie. What's that supposed to mean? It was a compliment. Body positivity. But that's the thing. I don't always feel positive about my body. So I asked my main bitch, Media, June 6, 2018. And she said body positivity has become a buzz phrase, one that co-opts language from the fat acceptance movement, but doesn't really move the needle on how we talk about and actually make space for bodies culturally and publicly. Whoa, bitch. You're telling me that fat people lose again in this economy? She looks good, right? Who is she? What is she thinking? Name, people. Body positivity doesn't allow for fat people to feel any type of way except for positive. And when we're not feeling ourselves, now we're bad feminists. Now we're bad at empowering others. Look, I don't have the upper body strength to shoulder all of this guilt. So let's talk problems, causes, and solutions to being #bodyposy. Just because I take my clothes off for money doesn't mean it's easy for me, or that you get a say in my feelings about it. I'm broke. Tits out, tears gone, pay my rent. A lot of ideas seem really good at first. Posing nude for Figure Drawing 101. Sleeping with some 2-bit Jack Dawson from Figure Drawing 101. Paint me like one of your French girls, please. I've been to Paris. Sacre bleu. We have two problems: inclusivity and emotion policing. First, the body positivity movement has forgotten the very people it set out to protect. Body positivity only cares about women named Ripley or Heavenly or KK Kaylee. Afropunk of May 24, 2018 explains that the movement has become increasingly championed by cis white women. And it's complicated because in the beginning, it seemed like everybody was out here supporting us, saying, woo, fat is okay. And when I heard that, I ripped my pants off and everybody was like, whoa, Lily. Nobody wants to see your fuzzy mimosa. Haters. When the movement was picked up by capitalism, it left behind any non-white, trans, disabled, or other non-compliant bodies that don't fulfill a straight white man's idea of sexy. I know what they find sexy. Beer! Beer! Second, what are we doing trying to tell people how to feel about their bodies? The body positivity movement tells you to love your body no matter what. Your fat ass is what you got, so love it, damn it. But according to Vox's News Hub Wrapped of June 5th, my eyes are up here. Contemporary body positivity makes it incumbent on those with non-conforming bodies to change their own self-perception without requiring anyone with any power to question what created the phenomenon in the first place. Body positivity forces you to love your body when it isn't even your fault for hating it to begin with. And that's the tea on that. Did I do that right? I'm not a gay. Man.
Me and gay men do have a lot of things in common.
We both like anal. And we both like Lizzo. What a body positive icon. I'm a top. We have two costs: capitalism and social capital. Is up. First, capitalism ruins everything. Who knew? The fat acceptance movement was pioneered in the mid-1960s by Black and queer women who wanted to fight discrimination in public spaces, the workplace, and doctors' offices. But when the movement was picked up by corporatism, the intentions of the movement were immediately tainted by men and their, wait for it, taints. Refinery 29 of March 13, 2018 explains that it is rare to find a body positive campaign that does not continue to indulge the male gaze, one that doesn't present women as objects of pleasure or desire. And look, I know I'm pleasurable and desirable, but all this ain't for the male gaze. It's for me and my gaze. And together we are going to brunch. The body positivity gives you little celebratory coins for affirming the movement online. Jezebel, February 19th, 2019 explains that on Instagram, a quick search of the hashtag brings up thousands of images of plus-size bodies. But it also produces just as many images of straight-sized people, influencers, and normies alike. And we don't need any more normies in this world. We've already got enough straighties. Now, change doesn't happen overnight. That's where everybody thinks detoxes work. Spoiler alert, they don't. Anybody catch that viral video of Jamila Jamil pooping? I like to imagine her shouting body positive things from the toilet. Love your stretch marks, fatty. Clothing sizes are a weapon. Anything's a dildo if you're brave enough. We have two solutions. First, fuck it. And second, get off your ass. But not like exercise. Who do you think I am? First, don't buy into the capitalism of body positivity. And feel however you want to feel about your body. Love your body some days and want to post about it? You do you, girl. Feel like you look like a chicken nugget every other day? Too. We're sisters. Lisa Fogarty reminds us that our feelings are complex and can't be summed up in a single hashtag. Like today, for example, I'm hashtag really didn't want to come here today because now my grandma's here and she knows what I do for a living to see my body naked. God, I'm sorry, man, I'm God. See, our feelings are complex, just like our identities, and can't be shrunken down to one ideal physical form. Just remember, if you're struggling with your body, you're not alone. And if you love yours, more power to you. Let's just let each other feel however we want to feel. Finally, if we're really so obsessed with bodies, how about we actually do something to try and make their lives better? Instead of trying to change how we feel about bodies in a world not intended for them, let's make the world inclusive of all bodies. Push for inclusive design in your city. Don't use the handicap stall in the bathroom. Fight for women's reproductive autonomy. Make fat discrimination illegal. Michigan shouldn't be the only state able to pass laws banning fat discrimination in the workplace. So that's why today, I would like you all to sign my petition to change the name of Lake Michigan to Ricky Lake Michigan. In this showcase, we support big bodies of water. I'm just kidding. There's no petition. I wouldn't last 2 seconds in a persuasion round. Unruly bodies are constantly suffering. It is no surprise that marginalized bodies don't think very highly of their worth in a world designed to hate them. So let's change that. Today, we discuss the problems, causes, and solutions to the jank body posse movement. Now, I'm going to keep shaking my thing for those snobby art majors as long as they keep throwing money at me. If they stop, I'll just force all of you to buy this art. I mean, she's basically a Monet or one of those guys. Now, that's positivity.
Can I have the seniors come down? We have a big senior class this year, so it's very exciting. If you're a senior on the team, will you come down? So this group of seniors have been with us for a variety of years. Some of them have been with us for 4 years, some of them haven't. But the entire time that they've been on the team, we've been the state champion in the state of Indiana, and we've been in the top 10, usually 7th or higher. We just attended a national tournament in March, and it's a new national tournament, and so it's only been around for 3 years, so we're going to go to 2 different ones. But this year, this team that was led by these seniors and some of the underclassmen competed and won the national title. We beat Northwestern and George Mason to win the national championship, and it was because of their So as you can see tonight, it's a lot of hard work and dedication. We're one of the few programs in the country that doesn't offer any scholarships. So all of these students get up very, very early. We'll leave tomorrow morning at 3 a.m. to catch a flight to go to Santa Ana, California to represent Ball State. We're very excited about it. And we want to thank the generosity of a lot of our donors who made that a reality. We really appreciate that. If this is something that you saw tonight that you were like, I would like to do this, this seems wonderful, we'd love to talk more about that, so come talk to me after it. If not, I really appreciate you spending an hour with us. I hope you enjoyed yourself and wish us luck at the national tournament for the next week.